Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be having a little bit of a deeper look as the top 4 and top 8 race heats up. Yes, it is heating up. Round 15 does have it all, so we're going to be having a little look at that, the end of the year, and then how teams have to shape up. But we're going to be going over the ladder first. So currently, as it stands, Brisbane are in first on 40 points. Melbourne second, Fremantle are third, both on 40 points as well. Geelong and Carlton, Geelong fourth, Carlton fifth, sit on 36 points. And then Richmond seventh, Richmond sixth, Sydney seventh, St Kilda eighth, Collingwood ninth, all sit on 32 points. The Doggies and the Suns, 10th and 11th, sit on 28 points. And Port Adelaide in 12th, sit on 24 points. So there is some really big games coming up for these clubs. We're going to be having a look at that. So let's just go ahead and have a look at the end of the year. So, of course, now the bye rounds are done and dusted, but have a little look at this. Round 15 has us in for a treat. Melbourne versus Brisbane, second versus first does kick us off on the Thursday night. Then the Doggies and the Hawks on the Friday night, 10th versus 14th. The Eagles and the Bombers, 18th versus 16th. The Blues and the Dockers, 5th versus 3rd. The Cats and the Tigers, 4th versus 6th. The Swans and the Saints, 7th versus 8th. The Crows and the Roos, 17th versus 15th. The Roos are 17th. Pies and the Giants, 9th versus 13th. And Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast, 12th versus 11th. So if we go back to the ladder now, you have a look. One of these teams out of Brisbane and Melbourne are going to be left on 40 points, with the other staying on top of the table. Then Fremantle, if they win, well, then they will join the winner of Brisbane versus Melbourne, also on top of the table on 44 points. However, if they lose, then that allows Geelong, if they win, to come up equal with them and the loser of Brisbane and Melbourne, and Carlton as well. They can come up and join them. But if Fremantle to win, well, then they'll go up to equal first. And then that means the Blues will be stuck on 36 points. And then the Cats and the Tigers, the winner of that game, if it's the Cats, they'll go up and onto 40 points and join the loser of Brisbane and Melbourne. And if the Dockers lose, join them as well. And the Blues, if they win against the Dockers. And then the Tigers, if they win, well, then they'll join the Cats on 36. And if the Blues win, well, then they will be joined up. But then if the Dockers win, well, then the Tigers will join them on 36 as well. The Swans and the Saints, now they're both on 32 points. So the winner of this game will go up and join, they'll definitely join the Tigers if they win. And then the Blues and the Cats, if they both lose, they'll join them on 36. Then the loser will be left on 32, which means if Collingwood beat the Giants, well, then they'll go up and take the loser's place in the top 8. And be equal with Richmond if they happen to lose as well. But they'll take the loser's spot in the top 8. If they win, but if they lose, well, then they'll be stuck outside the top 8. And then the Doggies and the Suns, well, then they come into the equation as well, because there'll be a loser of the Swans and the Saints. So if the Doggies and the Suns both win, well, then they'll go equal with the loser of the Swans and the Saints on points if they both win. But however, if they both lose, well, then they'll be stuck behind, which means Port Adelaide will be able to come into the equation and equal the Suns on 28 points. And then if just the Doggies win, the Suns don't win, well, then Port will join the Suns on 28. The Doggies will go on to 32 and join the loser of the Swans and the Saints on 32, and the Tigers if they lose, and the Pies if they lose. And then if the Giants and the Hawks both win, well, then that'll send them up onto 20 points. They can't make the 8, but still, we added that in. Well, I added that in there just because why not? So round 15 has a big lot of scenarios. I just went over all the possible scenarios. So now let's go to round 16. So round 16 does present us with the Lions and the Doggies. Now, obviously, if the Lions win versus the Demons and they win this game, well, then they'll go even further ahead. And then the Bulldogs will lose this game, and it could just about be season over. Carlton versus St Kilda is on the Friday night. If the Saints lose this game, I feel like they'll lose the Swans game at the SCG. So if they lose this game, they're in real trouble. And the Blues, well, they could lose to the Dockers, and I do see that happening as well. So then they must win this game. So the winner of that game, really important. The Swans must beat the Bombers at the MCG to keep their season alive as well, to try and get further ahead into the top 4. The Demons must beat the Crows. That is a must-win for them to try and get back onto the top of the table. Now, this one, the Suns and the Pies on Saturday night, does open up as a really big game for both the clubs. If Gold Coast do win next week, well, then in round 15, they'll join the Pies on points. But if the Pies win versus the Giants, which I think they will, then they'll go ahead. So the Suns must win this game to draw back with the Pies. Otherwise, if they don't, the Pies will get ahead of them, and it could be the Suns season just about over. The Cats, you'd think they'd beat the Roos at GMHBA. And then on the Sunday, Richmond must beat the West Coast Eagles, which I think they'd do that to try and hold their place in the top 8. And the Dockers and the Power, well, if the Power lose this, it's season over, and the Dockers you'd think would win this. Thursday night in round 17 presents a big opportunity for the Cats and the Demons. The winner of this game, of course, really important, really vital to go on and up and ahead of the other team, because I feel like the top 4 could possibly be already set as it is. The Swans and the Doggies, again, this could be the real knockout blow for the Dogs on the Friday night. The Swans, another game, the SCG, a big one for them, and if they lose this, well, then they're in all sorts of trouble as well. The Pies, you'd think they'd beat the Roos on Saturday over. Now, big one here, though. Gold Coast versus Richmond, Saturday twilight Metricon Stadium. The winner of this game, the Suns, again, must win this game to keep their season alive. Richmond, of course, winning this one to try and keep top 4 aspirations alive. The Saints and the Dockers clash on Saturday night of round 17. Really big. The winner, of course, if it's the Saints, well, then they keep their season alive. And if it's the Dockers, they go further ahead into the top 4, maybe even take first on the table. Then the Power and the Giants, again, I say it, Power lose one game and it could just about be season over, especially if it's a costly time. They really need to beat the Giants at home. Then it's the Lions and the Bombers on the Sunday, and this one is crucial for the Lions, and you'd think they'd win it. Must-win game for them up at the Gabba. And then the Blues take on the Eagles, lasting on a Sunday at Optus Stadium. Must win for the Blues if they're looking to keep top 4 aspirations alive. The Doggies and the Saints clash on Friday night in round 18. Now, the Doggies must win this game to keep their season alive. Otherwise, if the Saints win, you think it's probably season over for the Doggies, as they have the Swans of the SCG the week prior. The Crows play the Pies at Adelaide Oval. They must win the game. Collingwood, no excuses, must win that game. As to Brisbane, they must beat the Giants at Manuka Oval. Then the Tigers, they must beat the Roos to really try and keep their top 4 aspirations alive. Then the Blues and the Cats clash on Saturday night. Could be a potential top 4 decider. So the winner of this game, critical. And then over in the West, on the Saturday night as well, Freo Sydney. Now again, Sydney, if they lose this game, they'll be vulnerable. And the Dockers, well, if they win this, they'll continue going further up the ladder. The Demons and Port Adelaide clash on the Sunday. Now, you'd be thinking Port Adelaide would probably lose this, it'd be season over. But Melbourne, you never know. They could drop it, and then Port Adelaide still will have a chance. And then the Suns on Sunday afternoon, what do they do in that round? Can they beat the Bombers? Friday night, round 19, Richmond versus Fremantle. As big as it gets. Richmond, again, trying to win that game for top 4, hopes to stay alive. The Dockers, obviously, are looking to try and keep their chances of winning the minor premiership alive. Then the Swans must beat the Crows at the SCG to, well, keep their top 8 hopes alive. Otherwise, they could be very vulnerable. Port Adelaide versus Geelong. This one's a big one. Again, if Port Adelaide lose, it'll be season over for them. And the Cats, well then if they win, they keep their top 4 hopes alive. Then on the Saturday night of round 19, 2 very big games. The Lions and the Suns clash. You'd be thinking the Lions win. That would rule the Suns out of September action. The Doggies and the Demons clash. And you'd be thinking if the Demons win, well that'll rule the Doggies out of September action as well. So we're getting some ruling outs now. The Blues must beat the Giants to keep top 4 aspirations alive. The Pies must beat the Bombers. It's a simple must win. And the Saints, if they lose to West Coast in the West, they've got troubles. They'd be very vulnerable. Now, Gold Coast play West Coast of Metricon Stadium. Must win. Must win. The Lions and the Tigers shapes as a crucial chance for Richmond to make the top 4 if they can win that game. Otherwise, if the Lions win it, well, then they'll be looking to take out the minor premiership. St Kilda have the Hawks at Marvel. No, that they need to win that. They need to win that, and Sydney must beat crosstown rivals GWS. Collingwood versus Port Adelaide shapes as a danger game for the Power. And the Pies must win it to keep their top 8 dreams alive. Otherwise, if Port Adelaide lose it, it is season over for them, definitely. Then the Cats play the Doggies, which you'd be thinking is season over for the Western Bulldogs. The Cats, so they're still playing for top 4 hopes. Adelaide versus Carlton. Carlton again, they're playing for top 4 hopes too. And then the Dockers and the Demons. Shapes is a really big one to maybe even decide the minor premiership in round 2021. The Swans have to knock off the Roos. And then the Dogs and the Dockers Shapes, really big. The Dockers would really be looking to win that one. Carlton, their top 4 hopes could be ruled out after they play Brisbane at the Gabba. Then the Saints play the Cats GMHBA. They could be looking very vulnerable after this one. The Suns must beat the Hawks at UTAS. It is a tough task, but it can be done. The Demons and the Pies clash, which you'd be thinking that could make Collingwood very vulnerable. Port Adelaide play Richmond in a massive game for both these two clubs. But you'd be thinking Port Adelaide's season could already be over. And then Richmond are still playing for top 4 hopes and dreams. Then Suns and the Cats. Really big game to decide if the Suns can still make finals or not, and if the Cats walk over them. It's definitely season over for them. The Tigers play the Hawks in another must-win game, and then they could make the top 4. St Kilda play Brisbane. St Kilda looking vulnerable. They must win the game against Brisbane, otherwise they could be very vulnerable. The Doggies must take down the Giants. Swans and Collingwood looms as a very big danger game for Sydney and Collingwood, and the winner you'd be thinking would get the rise on the other team. I reckon the winner will overtake the other team, believe it or not. Bombers and Port Adelaide does loom big for the Power, as they must win, even though I think their season will be over by that time, but you never know. Melbourne and Carlton play at the MCG. Melbourne, they're looking to keep their top 4 hopes alive as well. And then the Dockers must win over the Eagles to keep their minor premiership hopes alive. The Suns play the Roos in 23. You'd think they'd be winning that game. And the Dockers will beat the Giants to set up a minor premiership year, maybe. The Saints and the Swans, that is as big as you'll get in round 23. Brisbane and Melbourne, another really big game in round 23 up at the Gabba for the minor premiership, really. Carlton versus Collingwood. Big game for the rivals. Richmond must beat the Bombers. The Cats, no excuse to lose to the Eagles. The Doggies take on the Hawks, and the Power take on the Crows in the showdown. Now to a breakdown for teams. Alright, so for Brisbane, their run home has Melbourne, the Western Bulldogs, Essendon, GWS, Gold Coast, Richmond, Carlton, St Kilda, Melbourne. Now, I reckon this does set up a really interesting minor premiership race for the Brisbane Lions. They could definitely win, they'll win most of these games, I reckon, and that can really set up a really interesting top 4 race, and maybe even the minor premiership for this team. Now, on to Carlton we go, where they don't have the easiest run home, and it may not favour them. They've got the Dockers, and then the Saints, 2 games at Marvel, then the Eagles, the Cats, the Giants, the Crows, the Lions, and the Demons, and then the Pies. So, the 3 last games for them is hard. They've got the Cats, and the Saints and Dockers in there. There's some really hard games in here for Blues. And I reckon they could just be clinging on to a top 8 spot for an elimination final, maybe, if they're lucky. They've got a really tough run home to Carlton. Now, for Collingwood, they've got the Giants and then the Suns. Some very 50-50 games. You'd be thinking they'd win against the Giants, but then the Suns is a 50-50. Then they've got the Roos and the Crows and the Bombers. A few easier games than the Power, the Demons, the Swans, and the Blues. So their last month of football does look tough. It does look tough for Collingwood. So they have to simply lock away games against Collingwood, GWS, North, and the Crows, and then they'll have to win at least a few other games to get into the top 8. Collingwood's run home is tough, but they can beat some really quality opponents. Now the Dockers, they're going to be playing well. You'd be thinking either for a home elimination or a qualifying final with the double chance. They've got the Blues and then Port Adelaide. Some really important games to decide where they're at. Then the Saints and the Swans. Then the Tigers, the Demons, the Dogs, the Eagles, and the Giants. It's not an easy run home for the Dockers, playing plenty of games at Marvel Stadium. But again, though, I reckon they can win at least 5 of these games and put themselves. They'll win against the Giants and the Eagles. I reckon they'll be able to beat the Dogs and the Demons as well. So that already sets some pretty good groundwork for the Dockers. So I reckon they've got a decent chance of taking out the minor premiership. On to another team that's looking for top 4 or minor premiership. The game versus Richmond is a massive one. Then they've got the Roos in a bit of an easier week, and then they're straight back into hard action with the Demons, the Blues, and the Power. and then another bit of an easy week against the Doggies, and then they back right into it again with the Saints, the Suns, and then another easy week versus West Coast. The Cats are in danger. They are in danger of missing the top 4, especially if they lose games. Like, I reckon it's going to be tough to make the top 4, and they do have a chance of playing in an elimination final to the Cats instead of a qualifying final. Yeah. Onto a team where you've probably got a soft spot saying, oh, I reckon they should make finals this year. But the Suns, they've got the power, big do-or-die clash, and then the Pies, and then the Tigers. 3 very big do-or-die clashes, and I reckon if they lose 2 of these 3 games, they are out of the runnings for the top 8. Then they've got the Bombers, a little bit of maybe an easier week. Then they've got the Lions, really tough. Then they've got the Eagles in a bit of an easier week. The Hawks are 50-51, the Cats are 50-51, and then the Roos. I reckon the Suns are in real danger of missing the finals. Their run home also suggests so. Well, Melbourne, they're obviously a team that won the flag this year, and they are in danger of missing the top 4 as well. Anything is possible. They've got the Lions, really big clash on the Thursday night. Then the Crows in a bit of an easier week. And then they've got the Cats, the Power, and then the Doggies, the Dockers, the Pies, the Blues, and the Lions. This is suggesting really tough. Now, I reckon they will beat the Crows, Port Adelaide, and the Doggies, but I reckon every other game, the Demons do have a pretty decent chance of losing. So, I don't know, but could we see Melbourne playing in an elimination final this year? Now to Port Adelaide, and their top 8 hopes, are hanging on by a literal thread. One mistake and, well, they're done. So they've got the Suns, really big 50-50 clash. And then the Dockers, that one's going to be hard to win. Then they've got the Giants in a maybe a bit of an easier week at home. Then they're right back into the hard stuff with the Demons, the Cats, the Pies, and then the Tigers. And then they've got the Bombers and the Crows to finish it off. So favourable 2 weeks to finish it off. But yeah, the Tigers, the Pies, the Cats, and the Demons are very tough teams to beat. And as to other Dockers at home, I reckon they'll beat the Suns and the Giants, and the Bombers and the Crows. But I just don't think that's enough to sneak in. And I reckon they'll have to win one of these 50-50 games. But I just don't know about the Power. I'm just not sure about them this year. Their start and their finish just doesn't say that they'll make the top 8 for me. And now to Richmond, where their finish is key on where they finish. So they've got the Cats next week, and then they've got a few big games in a row. They've got the Eagles, which I reckon they'll win. They've got the Suns, a tough one. Then they've got the Roos, another easy week. And then though they've got the Dockers, the Lions, the Power, to 3 pretty tough weeks, and they finish things off with the Hawks and the Bombers. So I reckon they'll beat the Hawks and the Bombers with some ease as well for percentage. Power, Richmond, Power, Lions, and the Dockers. I reckon they'll win one of them games. And then North and West Coast they'll beat. And then I reckon they'll beat the Suns as well. And I reckon they could beat the Cats. This is a favourable run home for the Tigers, and a top 4 finish could be theirs. Now to St Kilda, where they are vulnerable. They've got Sydney, the Blues, the Dockers, the Bombers, not the Dockers, the Dockers, the Bulldogs, the Eagles, the Hawks, the Cats, the Lions, and the Swans. They played the Swans twice, which those 2 games against the Swans are going to prove really crucial for both their seasons. The Blues, I don't think they'll be able to beat them. The Dockers, I don't think they'll be able to beat them either. They should be able to beat the Doggies. They will beat the Eagles and the Hawks. The Cats is a 50-50. They probably won't win that game. They probably won't beat the Lions, and they should be able to beat the Swans at home. But this is danger for St Kilda. They are a real chance now to miss the 8. St Kilda could really choke this year. Sydney, I almost see them in the same boat as St Kilda. They've got St Kilda this week coming up. Then they've got a really big game against the Bombers. Then they've got the Doggies, the Dockers. So 2 very big games there. So they've got the Saints. I don't think they'll be able to beat the Dockers at home, but they should be able to beat the Saints, the Bombers, and the Dogs, which puts them in a good position. Then they've got the Crows. They should be able to beat them. And they should be able to beat the Giants and the Roos. The Pies and the Swans shapes, the Pies and the Saints shapes as 50-50 games towards the end of the year. But I reckon they'll do enough to get into the 8 this year. I reckon it may be an elimination final, maybe even an away elimination final. But I still feel like they will definitely be making the 8 this year. Now to the final team of the video, where we've got the Western Bulldogs. They've got the Hawks and then the Lions in the next 2 weeks. Then the Swans, Saints, Demons, Cats, Dockers, Giants, Hawks. They are in danger. The Doggies are in real danger of missing the top 8. They should be able to beat the Hawks both twice, but then they'll definitely be losing to the Lions and the Swans. Saints is a 50-50. They'll lose to the Demons. They'll lose to the Cats and the Dockers. They'll beat the Giants. But yeah, that's just not enough to get into the top 8 for the Western Bulldogs. So I reckon they're going to be missing out this year. So it all starts here, round 15. It is a massive game. Well, there's some massive games in here. We'll just scroll through so you can have a little look. And I will show you the current ladder and how we're going. We'll go to the season ladder so you guys can see how many games they've won and lost. But that is how we are tracking up so far. Of course, every team has had their bye. And some teams, as I just went over in this video, are in real danger of missing the top 8. Sorry that this video was a long time, but it's really hard to make short videos about this topic. But anyway, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you made it to the end and watched the whole thing, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Goodbye everyone, Flaming Footy out.